Thank you for attending this training. It's designed to provide you with some additional guidance as you review IEPs and respond to the 8 questions that make up Indicator 13. You already know that the purpose of the transition-focused IEP is to assist the student and family with preparing for life after free, appropriate public education. Although there are no substantial changes to Indicator 13, there is one slight change to the wording of the indicator. They have added, or OSEP has added, terminology, pre-employment transition services, to the indicator wording. So I thought it would be a good idea to revise the training to include that additional wording. The format of our document and the addition of some prompts to guide you as you look for the elements in the IEP that will lead you to a response are the same. So let's get started. If you are also responsible for pulling IEPs to review, the document with directions is found on the data collection site. Actually, pretty much everything you will need regarding the data collection is found at this web address on this slide. You will see on this slide the precise wording for Indicator 13. And note, I've highlighted the verbiage which OSEP has added. Most divisions will be reporting on a percentage of their students who have IEPs are ages 16 through 21, and there will likely be some students who are 22 as well. You will identify the age-appropriate transition assessments that were used to identify the student's strengths, preferences, and interests and guided the development of the student's post-secondary goals. You will report on the post-secondary goals themselves. You will also identify the transition services your division has provided or will implement that are likely to assist the student in reaching their identified post-secondary goals. You will review annual goals, both academic and functional, that relate to the transition services needs and are deemed likely to help the student reach stated post-secondary goals. In other words, you are looking at this transition-focused IEP and you can see and identify elements of coordination among post-school goals, annual goals, transition services, and courses of study. The goals and services are based on assessment, and the combination and coordination of all these elements will likely move the student closer to their stated post-secondary goals. You must see evidence that the student received meeting notice. You will also look to ensure that when an outside agency or organization is invited to an IEP meeting by the school division, there's evidence of prior consent from a parent or guardian and/or eligible student. And when I say eligible student, I mean a person who has reached age 18 and education rights have transferred to that person. We often also use the term age of majority. Question 1. Are there appropriate measurable post-secondary goals in the areas of employment, education, training, and where appropriate, independent living? You must be able to identify a post-secondary goal in the following 3 areas: employment, education, and training. If one is missing, you cannot count this question as a yes. Independent living is the only post-secondary goal that is not required to be in every IEP. If there is not a post-secondary goal for independent living, can you determine that the team made a decision not to include it? All post-secondary goals in the IEP must be measurable. This means you can see or count an outcome. These goals must contain who, that is the person or student. What, that's measurable. And remember, process words like think about, consider, work with are not measurable. The goal must also contain when. This happens after high school has ended. If you cannot see who, what, and when in each post-secondary goal, you cannot answer yes to this question. It's likely that you will need to look in more places that are in additional places in the IEP to determine that the goals are appropriate for the student. Sometimes you will also see the condition under which the goal is achieved. This is fine. It adds additional information that often helps a reader better understand the needs of the student. Sometimes post-secondary education and training goals overlap. This often happens when a student identifies an employment goal that requires education. That's the classroom component, where we read, respond to questions, take tests, and participate in discussions. And it's directly tied to the training or hands-on component. The hands-on part is when the person will be practicing the skills that are learned in the classroom. Some examples are found in health occupations, such as Certified Nursing Assistant or LPN. Another good example is teaching. There's the classroom component and the training component, which is the student teaching. Hands-on training might be required so the student can sit for an industry certification or take a state licensure exam. Question 2. Are the post-secondary goals updated annually? Is there evidence that the IEP is reviewed and updated on an annual basis? The date on the IEP is an indicator. You might see that a new assessment or experience provided additional information and should prompt a revision. Maybe the academic and career plan has changed and that information is found in the IEP. You might see evidence in the present level or under transition assessment information. If the dates are not annual, your answer should be no. A best practice is to review the goals and any updated assessment information with the student before the IEP meeting. Ask the student if these goals are still correct. Then write a statement in the present level or somewhere on the IEP. I've provided you with some examples on this slide. Question 3. Is there evidence that the measurable post-secondary goals are based on age-appropriate transition assessment? These assessments can be formal and informal. Examples might be observations, interviews, checklists, inventories, SOL scores, a speech and language assessment, even a vocational evaluation with an evaluator from Wilson Workforce and Rehabilitation Center. The assessment information helps the student and team understand the student's preferences, interests, and strengths. You could find information from the academic and career plan or a pre-employment transition service. A PERT assessment. The student might have had a work experience or an informational interview with a person in a career of interest. All contribute to the development of post-secondary goals. Does the assessment information align with the goal? Can you find student voice in the IEP? And does that help confirm the post-secondary goals? In short, assessment provides information that aligns with your post-secondary goals. Question 4. Are there transition services in the IEP that will reasonably enable the student to meet his or her post-secondary goals? What activities might the student need to help them meet their stated post-secondary goals? Services include instruction, related services, a community experience, the development of employment and adult living objectives, if it's appropriate, daily living skills, and maybe a functional vocational evaluation. If one of Bill's post-secondary goals is to be competitively employed part-time in a retail store, what services might he need? Well, that's going to depend on his unique needs, and your transition assessment information should help identify that. You might note that the student receives a related service, such as speech and language, occupational or physical therapy. In addition, counseling might be present, or a work experience. Also consider the student whether the student received any pre-employment transition services. If the services assist the student in moving closer to a stated post-secondary goal, you should mark this question as yes. Question 5. Do the transition services, including courses of study, reasonably enable the student to meet his or her post-secondary goals? In many cases, the courses of study will align very closely with a particular diploma. Diplomas also align with certain career choices. You might find everything you need to answer yes based on the alignment of the post-secondary goals and the courses of study. Other IEPs will indicate the Applied Studies diploma, or maybe even 2 diplomas might be indicated in the IEP. The key is finding evidence that there is alignment. Ask yourself, will the content being taught in the courses the student takes assist the student to reach their stated post-secondary goals? Here's a scenario. When interviewed, Jamie states she wants to be a police officer after graduation from high school. Reading the record, you discover that this student has taken the VAP throughout her school career and is working for an Applied Studies diploma. The general education classes she has taken are art, music, drama, and health and PE. The student has volunteered in her church's nursery school program. She does have annual goals for reading, practical math applications, and citizenship. Do her courses of study reasonably support the attainment of her career goal? If the stated post-secondary employment goal requires college, you must see evidence that the student is preparing for a 2-year or 4-year degree. If you need to learn more about courses of study, go to the VDOE website and search for College and Career Ready, as well as courses of study that align with diploma options. Only when the courses of study align with the post-secondary goal can you check yes. Question 6. Are the annual goals related to the student's transition services needs? After reviewing the annual goals, consider how they address transition services needs. What are the areas of weakness or need? How do these areas affect the student's movement closer to the stated post-school goals? Look for both academic and functional goals. Will progress in those areas move the student closer to their post-school goals? There are some examples on this slide. And here's a short scenario. Mario's goal is to become a veterinary technician. He will attend the local community college and complete the vet tech program. What might be some annual goals that push Mario closer to his post-school goal? This depends on his unique needs. There's evidence in the present level that Mario does not ask for assistance when he needs it. He tends to put things off to the last minute, rushing to complete assignments, and they are often incomplete. Mario's academic weakness is reading. A goal on self-determination that covers self-advocacy is appropriate to help Mario ask for assistance or for his accommodations when needed. He may also need to work on some time management or organization skills to improve his grades. You should see a standards-based goal that relates to reading. These are all skills he will definitely need to be successful in his pursuit of his post-secondary goal. Sometimes the transition services needs require us to look at services the student had when they were young, and we were focused on life in the schoolhouse. But now we're focused on getting ready for life outside of the K-12 system and life without free appropriate public education, or FAPE. Question 7. Is there evidence that the student was invited to the IEP team meeting where transition services were discussed? Look for a copy of meeting notice dated prior to the meeting with the student's name on the notice. Look for a communication log that indicates the student received notice. Look for the student's signature on the IEP, especially when the student's signature is required to implement the IEP. And look at the date. Look for evidence that the student participated. Sometimes parents do not want their child to attend the IEP meeting. This does not negate the requirement to provide notice to the student. Remember, the purpose of the meeting notice is not just to include the student in the meeting. It also provides advance notice so the student can prepare. Question 8. If appropriate, is there evidence that a representative of any participating agency or organization likely to pay for or provide transition services, including, if appropriate, pre-employment transition services, was invited to the IEP team meeting with the prior consent of the parent or student who has reached the age of majority? The answer is yes, when an outside agency or organization representative, to include pre-employment transition services, is invited to an IEP meeting, receives notice, after the parent or guardian and or eligible student, remember that's an 18-year-old whose education rights have transferred to them, has given prior consent. The answer is no if an outside agency or organization representative, to include pre-employment transition services, receives meeting notice before there is prior consent, or an outside agency or organization representative attends an IEP meeting, signs an IEP, when there is no evidence of prior consent. You can mark not applicable if it is determined that the student is too young to include an outside agency or organization representative. The student is not receiving or has not received pre-employment transition services. The parent or guardian and or eligible student do not want an outside agency or organization person to attend, or the parent or guardian and or eligible student invites the agency or representative of an organization, including a provider of pre-employment transition services, to attend. Look at the meeting notice, the attendee list on the IEP, the signature page, and meeting notes. This concludes our training. Please contact me if you have some additional questions or comments. Contact information is on this last slide. And thank you again for listening to this training. And as always, if you have some suggestions or comments, please know you can contact me. I'd love to speak with you. Thank you very much.